수비야? 말하지 말랬지?
예, 좋았어요. 근데 이거 뭐예요?
Yoon-jung suddenly realized she dialed the wrong number. She had just gotten a new phone and, in her eagerness to call her boyfriend Sun-jun, hadn't synced her contacts yet, causing her to misdial the last digit. After a moment, she calmed herself after all. It was just a stranger on the other end. They'd never meet anyway.
잘 자. 이거 진짜 개또라이 아니야?
The next day, Sung-jun invited her out for dinner. On the table was a jewelry box, which could only mean one thing: he was going to propose. Even the waiter hinted at a surprise for them, so a delighted Yoon-jung tipped generously.
커피.
Soon after, Sung-jun returned from a phone call, teasing her a bit before finally handing her the box.
비싼 걸로 하고 싶었는데.
But when she opened it with anticipation, she found only a hairpin inside. The waiter's premature congratulations made the moment even more awkward. The scene then shifts to a toy company's conference room. Hyun-seung sat there, distracted, as his colleagues presented their ideas.
자네는 어떻게 생각해? 내가 자네 생각이.
제 생각이요?
아니 오빠가 진짜 생각이란 걸 해본 적이나 있어? 그게 일이야? 인정하기 싫겠지만 우리 이제 현실을 봐야 되는 날이야.
2 months ago, he had broken up with his girlfriend So-yeon. She had left him because he was broke and still chasing his music dreams. In a fit of anger, he smashed his beloved guitar and took a job at the toy factory. After work, his friends invited him out for drinks. A few drinks in, he found himself missing So-yeon more than ever. He decided to call her, but to his shock, a man answered the phone. 2 months after the breakup, he still hadn't moved on, but So-yeon clearly had. The more he thought about it, the more it hurt. In a daze, he accidentally dialed Yoon-jung's number. Yoon-jung, still fuming from her own disappointments with Sun-jun, was at home blasting music, drinking, and dancing to shake off her frustrations. Hyun-seung's call was like a final blow.
원래 여자는 다 그래? 그래. 당신 같은 여자가 사랑이라는 걸 제대로 해봤겠어?
The more he talked, the nastier his words became, as he vented all the pain So-yeon had caused him onto Yoon-jung. Infuriated, Yoon-jung fired back, and the two ended up in a heated argument that lasted over 2 hours. When Yoon-jung threatened to call the police, Hyun-seung coolly replied that he had recorded their conversation from the night before. Yoon-jung panicked, quickly explaining that she'd only called him by mistake, intending to reach her boyfriend. Realizing that Hyun-seung was likely heartbroken, she softened, and he apologized. It dawned on her that they were both just two lost souls, and somehow, talking to each other felt comforting.
날 더 이상 사랑하지 않다 이거 아닌데.
막 속상한 거 얘기하고 싶죠? 대신 그만 울기.
앞으로도 영원히 불가능할 거예요.
Hyun-seung, unable to put down his phone, kept the conversation going as he made his way home. And before they knew it, they were reminiscing about their chaotic phone call from the night before. And so, these two strangers, who had connected through a series of misdialed calls, found themselves repeating the story over and over, finding solace in each other's company. The next day, Yoon-jung confided in her mother about the troubles she was having with Sun-jun. As someone with experience, her mother advised her that romance needed to be nurtured, and that adding a touch of it to everyday life could keep the relationship steady and strong.
윤정아, 나 물 한 잔만 갖다 줄래?
That evening, Yoon-jung decided to put her mother's advice into practice. But when she tried, Sung-jun simply kissed her on the forehead and brushed her off, citing work as an excuse.
근데 내일까지 해야 될 일이 있네? 하고 할 거지? 불 꺼줄게.
Frustrated, Yoon-jung vented to Hyun-seung, even telling him about her embarrassing plan to get breast implants to please Sun-jun, only to be rejected. Hyun-seung couldn't help but burst into laughter at work, snorting like a pig. At that moment, a female colleague who had a crush on Hyun-seung walked by and boldly invited him out for dinner. Who could turn down an invitation from a beautiful woman? But during the date, Hyun-seung was distracted, his mind constantly drifting back to Yoon-jung, which left his colleague feeling quite disappointed. From then on, the two of them were constantly on the phone while working, walking, eating, drinking, even while showering and going to bed talking as if they'd never run out of things to say. During one of their conversations, Hyun-seung suggested they meet in person, but Yoon-jung hesitated. Sensing her apprehension, Hyun-seung guessed that she was afraid meeting in person might ruin the carefree connection they had, so he suggested they keep things as they were. Yoon-jung then changed the subject, asking if he had ever cheated while dating someone.
그것도 능력 있는 사람들이 나는 거지.
좋은 남자구나 너.
In fact, Yoon-jung had been cheated on before, but after witnessing it firsthand, she had chosen to endure it and kept this painful experience hidden from Hyun-seung. At work, the same colleague invited Hyun-seung out to see a movie that evening. He still couldn't figure out what she saw in him. Reluctantly, he agreed. As it turned out, So-yeon was also at the same movie with her new boyfriend. Hyun-seung noticed them throughout the entire movie, feeling the sting of her betrayal all over again. Unable to take it any longer, his colleague eventually got fed up and walked out. While Hyun-seung was at the movie, Yoon-jung was out to dinner with Sun-joon. To her shock, the woman Sun-joon had cheated on her, which showed up at the same restaurant.
안녕하세요 언니. 얘기 진짜 많이 들었어요.
내가 말했잖아. 나 보는 눈 엄청 높다고.
When this woman deliberately provoked her, Yoon-jung decided to take revenge on the spot.
술집 예전에 바랬는데 후배였네. 마치 나처럼?
She coolly lit a cigarette and, with a flourish, dumped both the lit cigarette and a drink onto Sun-joon's head.
오해가 있네.
She then proposed a dramatic toast to end things with Sun-joon, only to be jolted back to reality when he pushed her, revealing that the entire scene had been nothing more than a fantasy. Once again, Yoon-jung swallowed her anger and kept quiet. Afterward, she called Hyun-seung, fueled by alcohol. She suggested they meet in person. Hyun-seung jumped at the chance, not wanting to miss this opportunity. As anyone who's met online friends knows, the reality often doesn't match the expectation, like the difference between an online product photo and what actually arrives.
우리 만나는 건 좀 무리일 것 같아.
어? 그래, 그게 나을지도 모르겠다.
저기요.
진짜로 이쁘네.
근데 우리 뭐 하지?
They hurried to a hotel, but at the crucial moment, Yoon-jung pushed Hyun-seung away, laughing it off. Hyun-seung suggested they stick to what they know, talking on the phone. So, even though they were just inches apart, they began chatting and joking over the phone, which helped Yoon-jung relax. What happened next? Well, let's just say it's not the kind of scene you all enjoy watching, so I took one for the team and watched it for you. The next day, Yoon-jung was exhausted, barely able to focus on her meal.
자, 이거부터 먹어. 이게 제일 비싸. 태뱃살.
But when she got a call from Hyun-seung, she perked right up. Hyun-seung told her that So-yeon had called, asking to meet up, and he wasn't sure what to do. Yoon-jung patiently advised him on how to handle the situation. Feeling confident, Hyun-seung set off to meet So-yeon, while Yoon-jung found herself torn. Her rational side wanted to help Hyun-seung get back with So-yeon, but emotionally, she hoped they'd never reconcile. In the end, Hyun-seung's reunion attempt failed miserably. When Yoon-jung got his call and found him, he was standing outside, soaked to the skin and looking utterly defeated. Hiding from the rain, feeling sorry for him, Yoon-jung pulled him into a comforting embrace.
진짜 어떻게 해야 되니? 소연 씨가 뭐래?
어?
절대.
Back at home, Hyun-seung explained why the reunion had failed. So-yeon had dumped him again, this time for his lack of size. Let's say.
확실히 네가 더 커.
Oddly, this gave Hyun-seung a boost of confidence. Lifting his spirits, he dug out his old music equipment, inspired by Yoon-jung's voice. Just a friendly tip, if you're watching the original film at this point, you might want to use headphones, especially if there are strangers nearby. Trust me, you'll thank me later.
야, 너 천재다. 왜 그래?
As they continued talking, Hyun-seung started feeling the connection again, but this time, Yoon-jung turned him down. He didn't push it after all. They had plenty of time ahead of them. The next day, They went out for a meal together, only for Yoon-jung to run into one of her former colleagues. She desperately tried to avoid being seen, but her colleague spotted her anyway.
Yoon-jung!
Yoon-jung had left her job years ago, telling everyone she was getting married, but 5 years had passed and she still hadn't tied the knot. The last thing she wanted was for her former colleague to bring it up. But, of course, that's exactly what happened. The woman's relentless questioning left Yoon-jung at a loss for words, and the conversation soon turned into a series of sarcastic jabs and backhanded comments. Sensing Yoon-jung's discomfort, Hyun-seung jumped in, pretending to be her boyfriend to help her out of the situation. He even got back at the woman in front of her clients, turning the tables.
당신 말이야 못생겼어. 정확히 바다 거북이 닮았어. 바다 거북이.
But instead of thanking him, Yoon-jung was furious. She was upset that Hyun-seung had made such a move without consulting her first. Hyun-seung quickly apologized, but Yoon-jung remained conflicted, realizing that her colleague's harsh words had hit a nerve. She felt unsettled and frustrated. Hyun-seung reassured her that she was overthinking it, and as it turns out, sweet talk can work wonders. No woman can resist it for long. Hyun-seung, not one to let things slide, pulled her close and showered her with kisses. Their relationship deepened, and it seemed like they were heading towards something more serious. But as fate would have it, just when things were going well, an unexpected twist came along. That evening, Sung-joon suddenly proposed to Yoon-jung. After much consideration, Yoon-jung realized that continuing with Hyun-seung wasn't a sustainable option. After all, Hyun-seung's job barely covered his own expenses, and life isn't just about romance. It requires financial stability too. She accepted Sung-joon's proposal, but couldn't stop thinking about Hyun-seung.
저희 사진 한 장이요.
여기 축하팀이 하나 더 있습니다.
This all led to a dramatic scene at her wedding, where things took a turn for the worse.
바람처럼 문득 불어온.
Hyun-seung showed up with his guitar, singing a passionate, raunchy song in a last-ditch effort to win Yoon-jung back. But in a surprising twist, even though Yoon-jung called off the wedding, she didn't choose Hyun-seung either. It turned out that Sung-joon had invited his mistress to the wedding as well. Years of suppressed emotions came bursting out of Yoon-jung, especially under Hyun-seung's influence. But to make matters worse, the mistress wasn't one to back down either. She exposed Sung-joon's true, deceitful nature in front of everyone. In the end, the wedding was a complete disaster. The point of this twist? To show that even without Hyun-seung's involvement, Yoon-jung and Sung-joon were doomed to fall apart eventually. Hyun-seung just sped up the process, helping Yoon-jung see the truth sooner.
사랑해.
이제 안 믿어 그런 말.
Afterward, Yoon-jung and Hyun-seung cut ties completely. Years later, Hyun-seung found success in his music career, and he and Yoon-jung reconnected through a radio show. By that time, there were no longer any moral barriers between them, and the story finally reached its perfect ending. See you next time.
무슨 팬티 입고 있어요?